This part of the build will be the shoulder straps, and I'm using the X-Pac VX21, I think, and the 1/4-inch spacer mesh. Plus I've got inside there the Gossamer Deer 1/8-inch sleeping mat. So we'll go through the build on how I did these straps, how I did the lower attachment points. And this is one thing I've learned. Thought this would be a really cool sternum strap. It's one that you get for the survival bracelets, but it doesn't have an adjustment on it. And so that's one thing that I guess I've learned is always make sure if you've got an adjustment, you need to be able to adjust it. You have to have an adjustment double hook there. So I'll go over how I made the sternum strap later on, but it would just be riding right there. Actually, it's like right there, and then go up and down. Let's go through the build. All right, everybody, let's make a pack. So I'm going to start off with the shoulder straps. And what I did is I ordered the G4 backpack pattern kit from Gossamer Gear. So even though I do have strap, and what I did is I took the pattern and I actually translated the pattern onto this board. So if I really enjoy making packs, then I can kind of work with it and make more changes or modifications. But I've also have an S shoulder strap, but I'm going to go with the G4's shoulder strap. I don't mind straight shoulder straps. And the fabric I'm using for my straps on the outside is the X-Pac VX21. There's lots of ways you can go with fabrics. You don't have to go with, say, an expensive fabric like this. You can use Cordura. You can use a lot of things. Don't think you have to go with that. So basically, I'm just going to trace the pattern. This will be for the right shoulder, and then I'll just flip it, and that'll be for the left shoulder. And this is for the outside. Everything lined up. And maximize fabric, and I'm using a silver Sharpie, which I really love. And now I'll just flip it over, but I want to make sure I have the X pattern the same. So I'll move it over just a little bit. Looks good. Come on. Definitely maximizing fabric. All right, so there I've got the two sides marked out. Actually, that's how they'll look on the body, like that. Did end up, the way I cut it, I ended up with a nice strip here, and that looks like it's going to make a great little steak bag. So other than that, the waist was that. The next stage is to do, what I'm going to do is I've got this 1/4-inch, what's called spacer mesh. So this is the stuff that when you sweat, it's padding, plus it has airflow. So same thing that I'll do, and same pattern, and I'll do the same thing and come out with my shoulder strap padding. That. So now I've got the padding, and I've got some remnants. I'll probably see if I can try to figure out if I can use these bits and pieces later on in the project. So there we've got. So that'll be where it's touching your shoulder, and this is the right one. Nope. So that's how that will go. And what we're going to be doing is we'll turn these inside out, put the good face together, then we'll sew 1/4 inch along each side, and it's going to gradually start getting smaller. But the next thing we've got to do is kind of plan out how we want to have the shoulder strap. And I've got a couple of webbing choices. This is definitely a spot where you can lighten up your pack.
you could use smaller webbing than what I'm going to be using. This is, I think it's 5/8 webbing that I'll be using around the pack. I'm a bigger guy. I'm just a bigger guy, and I want to have, just the webbing that's kind of a size appropriate, that looks normal. I've got other packs with thinner webbing. It's definitely a place where you can start lightening up, get thinner webbing, thinner buckles, start getting those ounces down. But this is what I've decided to do. So I've got to kind of decide, because you want to sew as much as you can to this piece before you sew it to each other. So I'm going to try and figure out what I want there. So here comes kind of the fun part to customize to make this your pack, is deciding on how the shoulder straps, what they're going to look like, what they're going to do. And what I've decided is this will be my release buckle down here. Figure out exactly what length I want for that. That's the buckle there. And then I'm going to have a strap that goes right down the middle. And then I'm going to have this little piece that's going to cover the stitching, but it's also going to have two of these little D-rings. And what I'm going to be doing with those is being the ability to add on bags or add on sling systems for my cameras. Then for the uphaul system, I'll have it start down here. I'll put another band across there and a couple more D-rings, and then I'll have an adjuster right there. Then I'll have the load lifter buckle right there. So that'll go back to the pack, and we'll see all that comes back later on. So it'll all come in. So that's kind of what I'm going to do. I'm going to tack these all down where I need it to be with double-sided tape, and I'm going to sew it onto this piece right now on the outside, on the plus side, not this side. And so that way I'm not sewing through all this all the time. I will eventually have to sew through all this at a certain point. You want to get as much done as you can. And the load lifter strap will go right on top there, and then I'll sew through both right there in the middle. So that's about 10 inches down from the back. I'll sew that down. So we're going through both webbing. And then I'll probably go through all the way through here again once I get the 3/4 backing, or the spacer mesh on the back. And so since that's a pull point, that will be tacked down all the way through. Okay, so I've set up my machine to do zigzag, and a really tight zigzag, because we're just going to be tacking this webbing down. And we've got a different needle than I normally use. This is one for jeans, or kind of like a regular needle, and it works better with webbing. And so we're just going to go across. And I did some test stuff with fabric. It's going real slow, so I'm not causing too much noise on the camera. So we'll just tack that end down. Speed it up a little bit now. Now we'll reverse it. Back through. I'll go to the middle one, and I can see the little bit of tape right there. Do the same thing. There we go. And now I'll just do the top, and we'll have that done. Put the ladders on. And so these little ladders, that's for when you're adjusting your load lifters. So we'll put those on before we sew the top. There's a load lifter.
Wish I got a little wider ones. They'll work. Now I won't tack both of those down. This strap here is what goes up to the load lifter system. But this strap over here, I can pull nice and tight. There we go. And tack it back here. Now I've got those little cross webbings. And I'll just do the same thing, tack them on the side. What's really nice that when I sew the front and the back together, I will be hitting these again. So I don't need to go crazy on it. Go ahead and tack those all down. You put on your tensioner for your shoulder strap. That's going to be one of the stitches that's going to go completely through both this and the other materials that you have, because you want it nice and strong. So kind of however you want to do that, but you don't want it to come down to where you're going to be sewing, and you want to be able to move it back so it gets out of the way. So I think what I'm going to do is kind of have it looped like that, so I can bring that whole thing out of the way for when I'm sewing. And then when I get to the point where I'm sewing it down, then I'll fold it down flat like that and have this attached like that. So let's get that where I want it. So now I'm going to stitch that one, and then I'll stitch. Maybe I'll just wait to stitch that on. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to stitch it just once, and then I'll do the multi-stitching when I've got the other backing piece on. And so now what I need to do is find my matching piece. That's it, actually. And you want to have pieces that you eventually want on the outside. Like this will be next to my shoulder, this will be on the outside. You want those on the inside when you sew. Gonna line those up. I'll probably pin this out or clamp it out, because with everything I've been doing, it's kind of shortened up the X-Pack part of it. So I'll probably just do some clamps, and then that way it will have it nice and even. From what I've seen, there's basically 3 ways to sew your shoulder straps. And the one way is you put the two, like this is the outside, this is the outside, you put those together, you sew down the outsides, and then you invert the whole thing. That's how I'm going to do it. But you can also just sew the one side, and you flip it around, and like this side would be tucked in, sewed in. And then on this side of the fabric, you'd sew down the side. Then you take a lightweight type of piping fabric, and you go around the outside like that. And then the third way is to do that on both sides. So there's 3 ways of doing it. I'm going to do where you put the 2 faces together like that, sew down both sides, and leave this open down here, and then just invert it. So I got my little clamps all the way around, and I'm going to leave this open on the end. I haven't really decided whether or not I'm going to put any more padding in there or not. I'm going to see once I get it done. I'm going to switch this back to straight stitch. And about 1/4 of an inch down the side, and go all the way around. I'm doing a regular stitch length on this rather than like with my normal ultralight tarp stuff. I do 8 per inch, but I'm doing this as standard right off just what the normal set on my sewing machine is. So. Okay, so we're just gonna go 1/4 of an inch, and as I go over some of the spots, like where I have the D-rings, I'll kind of make sure those D-rings are out of the way, and that'll give me a second layer. I did some test runs already on some scrap material to make sure everything's running smooth. Down to here, you can just pick up and rotate. Get to the corner, drop the needle down, and then I can rotate this around and get it all lined up. Rotate, drop it down. Fun part is to try and invert these. So I'll probably try and start it with my fingers and then use like this broom handle to invert this. Get a good start with my hands. I'm just gonna put it on like a condom or something. Just gonna work that on down. Seems to be working. Voila. Very good. Okay, so there we end up. Resituate everything. Our first backpacking strap. I'll kind of decide, probably put some padding, might as well put some padding in there. But I'll be putting some stitching in here to help hold everything in place so it won't rotate out of place. Not bad. Okay, so the 3/4 inch spacer mesh actually is quite a bit of padding, and if you want to go as light as possible, you can easily just go with this 3/4 inch spacer mesh as your padding for your shoulders. But since this is my first pack I've ever made, I'm going to use some of this 1/8 inch. This is the 1/8 inch ultralight mat, sleep mat from Gossamer Gear. So I'm going to cut out a piece of this and slip it inside, and we'll go with that with this pack build. I won't need any padding up here because this will be actually sewn into the back of the backpack, and I also won't need any down here at the bottom. So to facilitate saving as much of this pad as I can, I'm going to just include those right there. Let me just offset it just a little bit because I do need it a little bit thinner, not a lot thinner. And now it's just a matter of working this into the system here. I've heard that like talcum powder works, but I'm gonna see if I can work it in. Okay, well that worked. Took like a stick and a little bit of painter's tape, and I got it down there. I also read where you can use like, talcum powder and all that. That seemed to work just fine. I know there's a little bit of tape inside there, but it's not going to affect anything. So now what I'm going to do is make a few places where I'm going to sew through
the foam and the outer casing. And if you don't, you need to place a few more in different spots so you don't get any kind of rolling effect on them. So I'll try and figure that out and I'll show you when I'm done.
Okay, so what I decided to do is actually do a couple strips that are going to be covered with that strap there and down here. And from what I've read, if you don't do that, you'll get a rolling of your strap where part of the spacer mesh will start coming around and it'll start looking all goofy. So that should hold it in place. And down here, I've got one, and up here, it's through all the way through. So looking good. Now to make the reinforcement stays where you connect your backpack to the bottom, I'm going to use the same X-Pack material. And this is it again is, so to make the bottom reinforcement and straps so you can tighten your backpack down, your shoulder straps. So these squares are 4.5 inches. This is a from the G4 again. I'll take 2 feet of the strap material, or 26 inches is what I'm using. It gives me a little bit of slop and leeway that I can work with. Burning the ends of these is real important. And what I do is I'm going to fold this in a triangle. And just put that little point down in. And I'm going to fold this over. This will give me a nice clean edge when I sew. Or something like that. So when I'm all done, end up with something like that. So when I put it into the pack, if I go straight like that, that's going to be coming off at too much of an angle. So I will, when I put it in a pack like that, that's not going to be good enough. So I'll just put it in my pack. I'll sew the pack part in. So this is coming up at a more natural angle. Okay, so here's the finished build. I was talking about the sternum strap later, and when I get the new sternum strap, I'll show that build when I probably put the pack together. But this is the adjustment. If you're gonna have an adjustment, you gotta have a buckle that's like this, where you can pull it and adjust it and have it stick. Starting from the top, so this is where it'll connect to the back of the pack. These are the load lifters. So those will go up to a load lifter. This is a little ladder that you put in. That basically sits right on top of your shoulder. So depending on your size, you can adjust that. That way you'll get your proper load lifter. These little brackets, I've added some of these little D-rings so I can add like a chest pocket or other things. I just added a few D-rings on each. They weigh literally nothing. These straps here are tacked, so I can add like the water bottle, bungee cord systems if I want. There's where I tacked down the middle to keep everything from rolling. So over time, this whole thing won't shift around. And down here is how it's connected to where it'll go down to the pack. When I put it on in the pack, I can put that at whatever angle. It won't be at a 45-degree angle. It'll be something like that when I put it on the pack. There we go. There's the build of the shoulder straps. All right, see you out on the trail. Bye now.